Okay. Is it going? It says I'm going. All right. All right. Hello and welcome to yet another episode. Is it going? It's going. It's supposedly going. Yeah. Okay. Let me try this again. Welcome to yet another episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli, episode 15 of season 8. I've been doing this a long time. Here, let's go back. All right. So, you're not gonna believe this, but my system crashed. Why? Because I had severely undervolted my card, severely undervolted, and it just did not like it. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna leave it at stock settings for right now. I'm gonna let the heat of the card. Damn. I'm gonna let the heat of the card build up as much as it wants to. Yeah. Hey, this is ridiculous here. Let me through. Let me through. I'm like literally carving a way through the trees. So this is a path I made to my tower. You don't know this because I'm gonna delete the last one. But yeah, I just said this. I made this path up here from my base to the tower because it was not there before and it was kind of difficult to go all the way over here just to climb the tower. Look at that, see a baby zombie out of nowhere. Zombies, dude, out of nowhere. Gotta watch out for those zombies out of nowhere. So yeah, hey, welcome to my show yet again. Again, this is episode 15, season 8. Season 8. Now each season isn't exactly a year long, but it's pretty close. I've been doing this show a long time. Why? Why have I been doing this show? Well, because I like Minecraft, number one. Minecraft is like one of the greatest games ever. Because the entire environment is yours to control. And it's like virtual reality. Look at that, how my chat is not available today. So I'm just not gonna know, right? Someone's in my chat, I don't know. But yeah. What's going on? Yeah, that's a bummer. My chat's not going, but no one ever talks to me anyways. And if they do, it's usually distracting. So let me just keep going. So yeah, I've been doing the show since at least 2018. Like I probably knew that Donald Trump was a bad guy in 2017, but I had limited ways of getting that information out, and I was too slow in getting the information out because even now. There's multitudes of Americans who are unaware that Donald Trump is a bad guy. In fact, they think the opposite. They think he's the best guy. So like, yeah, not so hot. Not so great. Man, that baby zombie came out of where? I'm afraid it's gonna go into my villagers and like kill them. So that's why I'm concerned. Not because I'm worried about my safety, it's the villagers in my town that I'm worried about. But yeah, so this is my handy dandy way of getting up there. Yeah. And I've been doing this show for a long time. Because it's basically Donald Trump represents an existential threat. And what's happening to the United States is something that's already happened to Ukraine. Ukraine already knows what's going on here in terms of what it's like to have a puppet propped up by a foreign power intent on overthrowing your democracy for the benefit of the foreign power. I'm talking about Ukraine. Remember, in 20, well, I don't know when it was, but 2012. I'm not sure when, but Ukraine had an election, and Paul Manafort was the campaign manager of a Russian puppet named Yanukovych, and he did this campaign, and his opponent was like a female politician who was well liked by the Ukrainians, and who wanted to move the Ukraine closer to the EU, whereas Russia wants Ukraine to move closer to Russia. So Paul Manafort, as the campaign manager for this Russian puppet, devised this idea of calling the female politician a criminal and saying all this stuff like lock her up and stuff. And it must have worked to confuse enough people, because the Russian puppet got into power. Well, after a few years, the Ukrainian people understood that the Russian puppet was a Russian puppet, and they staged a revolution in the middle of winter. In the middle of winter, they protested for 3 months, and against like sniper fire and police brutality and harsh winter conditions and all sorts of awfulness. But after 3 months, the Russian puppet finally fled back to Russia, and Paul Manafort came to the United States to work for Donald Trump. So to do the same thing here in the United States that he did in Ukraine. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're like how many years into it? Like many years into it, and I don't believe the majority of people are on board with Donald Trump. I believe yeah, there's enough people who are never Trumpers, because not only are the Democrats against Donald Trump, but there's enough Republicans who are never Trumpers. They voted for Nikki Haley, and if Nikki Haley isn't on the ballot, then they're going to vote for Biden. So there's no way Donald Trump can win. There's no way. But Donald Trump knows that he can't win. So instead, what he's trying to do is rile up his base to become violent and stage a violent revolution like they did, or try to stage a violent insurrection like they did on January 6, 2021. Because that's the only way Donald Trump gets power, is if he overthrows the government. So be aware of this, right? I tried to warn people for years before Donald Trump did the first time, and I don't know how many people listened to me. And at any rate, Donald Trump tried to violently overthrow the government when he lost the election. So he's going to try it again. He's already priming his people. I think there was a clip of him saying he likes to hide it by saying, "Oh, I wasn't talking about that," but that's what he was talking about. It's plausible deniability. He said that it's going to be a bloodbath if Donald Trump doesn't become president. But you know, Donald Trump isn't going to be the one who's out there with the violence. He's calling on his white supremacist gangs to go out there and do it. Like, you know, it's white supremacist gangs, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the American Guard, all Patriot Front, all those are white supremacist gangs that take direction from Donald Trump to carry out his orders. Because he doesn't give orders like a regular general. He gives orders like a mob boss. So he's not going to come out and say it. He's going to say it like a mob boss. And if you get it, then you can work for the boss. And if you don't get it, you can't work for the boss. Or you're not loyal, and Donald Trump doesn't want you. Because Donald Trump only wants people who are loyal to Donald Trump. Not to the law, not to the United States, no. Only to Donald Trump. So anyways. That's the impetus for me doing this show. Is I have to warn people and spread the knowledge that Donald Trump is a fascist who's trying to overthrow American democracy. Real quick, this is my minecart unloader. It was broken for a while and I couldn't figure out why, and then I figured out why. So you see how the hopper goes from the track into a barrel, and then from the barrel it goes into the chests. Yes, because previously I had a hopper directly underneath this hopper. But the problem was with the hopper underneath the first hopper, it pulled out the item faster than the comparator could read it. So the comparator would not be on solidly enough to depower this rail, which meant the minecart kept bouncing off and slowly filling up and not picking up all the wool. So I needed this buffer. That's what it is. It's a buffer. It's a cache. And I kind of dig it. I'm like, yeah, cache. Nice. Okay. So my feeling is, sure, I gave you lots of information before, but it all kind of like drained out too quickly because it was a lot of information. So let's see what happens if I go slower. Okay, so for this show, for this episode, let's talk about stuff. Let's see what I got here. Let's see what I got. Okay, first of all, you got to know Donald Trump is pretty stupid. Donald Trump is a loser, right? He's a loser. He attracts other losers. That's the thing about Donald Trump is he's a lifetime long loser who always gets his ass kicked. And the only reason why he's still like around is because the Russians bailed him out in the 80s after he lost his ass on the Taj Mahal, his failed casino in Atlantic City. The Russians bailed him out, and when the Russians bail you out, that means the Russians own you. So Donald Trump has been propped up by the Russians since like the 80s, and yeah, he's a useful tool for them. Like, so, and he's a loser. He loses everything. He always loses. He lost, and so the only way he can keep the con up of him being successful is by delaying all the things that would show how he's a loser. And he attracts losers because that's who's attracted to Donald Trump, are people who are losers. They feel like they can't win, and so Donald Trump offers them a way to win without merit, and they want to take it. But Donald Trump's a loser. He lost all his court cases. Like, he owes $500 million by next week. So it was pretty amazing that he was able to, and he already had to pay $91 million to the court so he could file an appeal. And nobody knows who gave him that money because he didn't have that money, and he was telling the court that he was begging the court to negotiate the settlement money because he didn't have the money, and he would have to sell properties to come up with the cash, and he didn't want to do it. Yeah, dude, check this out. On stock settings, I'm at 98 degrees Celsius on my hotspot. On stock settings. Man, this card. So Donald Trump's a loser. So the only way he avoids showing his loserness is by associating with criminals who then cover up his loserness. And he lies so much, it's just absurd. But then he has a cult, right? He has a cult of personality. There are people who are enthralled by his personality. They are enthralled. They are enslaved by his personality. And they only listen to what Donald Trump says. They can't think for themselves. They can't process any information that doesn't come from Donald Trump. Because if it doesn't come from Donald Trump, then they say, "Oh, it's not real." Didn't I just chop this down? What's going on? Oh, maybe I did it on the last one. I don't know. Yo, this tree is in the way now. What are you doing, guy? All right. The secret path. So yeah, Donald Trump is a loser. He loses all the time. But you have to understand, the other thing about Donald Trump is that he's old. He's old and out of touch, and he doesn't really know what's going on. So let me give you an example of what I mean when I say Donald Trump is old and out of touch. First of all, let's go through his a compilation of his gaffes.
Here, too, the record speaks for itself.
Check it out.
One of the great memories of all time, James Webb. I don't remember the names. Don't remember the name.
Viktor Orban. Did anyone ever hear of him? He's the leader of Turkey.
By the way, they never
Not the
report
Turkey.
the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley is in charge of security.
3 years later, how about that?
Did you actually have a one-on-one with Comey then?
And not much, not even that I remember. I like mosquitoes.
We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody that even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks them. Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your... Oh.
I have a really good memory.
Your next wife was a woman by the name of Marla Maples.
That's right.
Do you recall what years you were married to Ms. Maples?
It's called like Up Here, and it's called Memory, and it's called other things.
So you don't remember saying you have one of the best memories?
I don't remember that.
And Putin, you know, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word. You heard that, nuclear.
We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name.
And I talked to Putin a lot.
Did you ask him that? I don't remember that. I saw that this morning. I don't remember asking him that question.
I have a good memory and all that stuff, like a great memory.
For 20 years, they were fighting ISIS. I defeated ISIS in 4 weeks.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Obama?
And you know what? When I am, you're going to tell it. You're going to be the first people. I know my people. You'll say, all right, Trump, you did a good job. Get the hell out of here. That's it.
That is a man who is incapable of avoiding criminal liability, a man who is wholly unfit for office, and a man who, at the very least, ought to think twice before accusing others of cognitive decline.
Yeah. So Donald Trump is old, and his mind isn't all there. So one of the things he says is that Hillary Clinton used bit bleach on her servers so that the FBI couldn't look at what's on there, right? So this is what he's saying. So but that's not his idea, right? He heard it from somewhere, and he just repeats it, but he doesn't understand what he's saying. Listen.
It's egregious what he did. But by the way, they released Hillary Clinton. She hammered her phones. She used all sorts of...
She hammered her phones? What are you talking about? What does that even mean? Uh-oh. There it is. Oh, it disconnected me. Why would you do that?
acid testing and everything else. They call it bleach bit, but it's essentially acid that will destroy everything, you know, within 10 miles.
What? What? So let me show you. If you don't know, right? If you don't know, bleach bit is a program that you run on your computer. When your computer is getting full, bleach bit quickly frees disk space. When your information is only your business, bleach bit guards your privacy. With bleach bit, you can free cache, delete cookies, clear internet history, shred temporary files, delete logs, and discard junk you didn't know was there. So it's a program. BleachBit is a program you run on your computer to look for junk files and to throw them away, to delete them. That's what it is. But Donald Trump hears the name BleachBit and thinks it's literal acid that you literally pour on your computer to literally destroy your computer. Why would he think that? Because he's old and out of touch. I mean, I'm not saying that he's old. Come on, that's not a good thing to say, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people who are of advanced age who know about computers and stuff. But Donald Trump is not one of them. Donald Trump is out of touch. He's repeating old conspiracy theories that he doesn't even understand. He literally thinks Hillary Clinton took bleach and poured it on her computer. That's what he thinks, because he's stupid.
I mean, what she did was unbelievable.
And then so he's trying to say that, oh, Donald Trump stealing U.S. secrets and then lying about it and then hiding them before the FBI can come. That's the same thing as Hillary Clinton having some emails that he claims that she used bleach on, acid that destroys everything in 10 miles. This guy is out of control. He doesn't know what's going on. So he's just dumb. Donald Trump is stupid. And he attracts people of the like mind. I can go off on that more. People who are planning to vote for Trump next time, I have a question. Why do you think you know him better than his vice president? Because Mike Pence just came out and said that he would not endorse Donald Trump for president. Mike Pence. Which makes sense, right? Because Donald Trump sent a mob to kill Mike Pence. The mob tried to kill Mike Pence. The mob that Donald Trump assembled to overthrow the government on January 6th, they tried to kill Mike Pence. Yeah, Mike Pence is like, yeah, that guy shouldn't be president. His chief of staff, Mark Meadows, wouldn't endorse Donald Trump. So the guy worked with him for 4 years and said, "No, I wouldn't vote for him for president." His two of his defense secretaries won't endorse him. The Homeland Security Secretary, 2 of them won't endorse him. The National Security Advisor, 2 of them won't endorse him. Communications Director, 3 communications directors will not endorse Donald Trump. And all his lawyers won't endorse Donald Trump. So people who are going to vote for Donald Trump think they know Donald Trump better than the people that worked with him directly. Do you know him better than the people who worked with him directly, or are you in a cult? I'd say you're in a cult. You're in a cult. Your brain's not all there. Dude. Man, I got all this stuff. A lot of this is comparing Biden to Trump, but I don't want to, right? Because I'm pissed off at Biden right now. I'm still pissed off at Biden. Biden essentially gave the go-ahead for Israel to attack the refugee camp. The last place that the Israelis that the Palestinians fled to not get killed. Biden pretty much said, "Go ahead and attack that place." So I don't want to do anything for Biden. I don't want to campaign for Biden. He's engaging the United States in a genocide. I don't want to be a part of that. So one of the things that Israel, in Jerusalem, for the Muslims, there's a very, very holy temple in Jerusalem for the Muslims. It's called Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a very famous ancient mosque that is significant to the Muslims. And right now we're in Ramadan. Ramadan is a time when the Muslims are fasting. Number one, for a month they fast, and number two, they go pray at this this very holy mosque. Well, every year during Ramadan, every year, Israel goes to this Muslim mosque and starts problems. Every year. Every year. So this is Israeli police use batons to push back worshippers from entering their own fucking mosque. That was on March 12th, right? 2024. Israeli forces violently evict Palestinian worshippers from their own mosque. That was in 2021 during Ramadan. Israel. UN experts condemns brutal attacks on Palestinians and Al-Aqsa Mosque on the last year, right? So we got 21, 23, and 24. Israeli forces raid Al-Aqsa Mosque. Over 40 Palestinians is injured. So over the past 4 years, 2001, 2, 3, and 4, Israel picks this time, Ramadan. Israel chooses Ramadan to attack worshippers at their own holy mosque in Jerusalem. For 4 years in a row. That's because Israel is a terrorist nation, right? They're a terrorist nation. Their whole point is terrorism. They're a settler colonial imperialist project that uses terror in order to achieve its political goals. I mean, it's engaged in genocide, right? It doesn't want any of those people there. It wants to ethnically cleanse Palestine of all the Palestinian people so they can steal all the land. So that's pretty shitty. It's real shitty. So I got into this Facebook discussion with this old boomer dude, and he was absolutely on board with Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. And he said it's justified because thousands and thousands of years ago, like 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, I don't know exactly the timetable, but thousands of years ago, to this entirely separate group of people, there's this story that these people tell a story about how their deity gave them real estate promised them real estate in the Middle East. Thousands upon thousands of years ago, there's a story about how a deity gave real estate to a group of people. Thousands of years ago. So the guy is like, yeah, I'm going to ignore all the history. All the history. Except for the story that says the deity gave a real estate deal to the ancient Israelis. And these current group of people that call themselves the Israelis, they're not the same group, but they're going to call themselves Israelis. They're going to use this claim from 3,000 years ago to justify the genocide of the people that live there currently. And they have been living there for hundreds upon hundreds of years. So that would be like if France decides that it doesn't want to sell the United States the Louisiana Purchase anymore, and France comes in with a military and starts murdering all the people in the Midwest, right? Because historically it's France's. And before that, if you want to really be technical, right? Before any of that, it was the Native Americans. It was all the Native Americans. All this is Native American land. You don't have to go back 3,000 years to find that the Native Americans own this land. Go back like 300 years. 1/10 the amount of time. But for this guy, for this boomer Zion Nazi, his consciousness was stuck in Bronze Age. He had a Bronze Age consciousness, in that he thought since his group conquered the land, had more force, they are entitled to take it away, because that's in the Bronze Age, using Bronze Age thinking, Bronze Age consciousness, might makes right. That's why there's kings. Because might makes right. You don't like the king will kill you. It's real easy. Might makes right back there. But we so modern day thinkers, people with modern day consciousness, have already incorporated 3,000 years of history. You have to incorporate it. You can't just, you have to incorporate it into your thinking. 3,000 years of history you incorporate into your thinking to arrive at modern consciousness. What does modern consciousness say? Modern consciousness is aware that settler colonialism is evil. It's bad. It's wrong. Why? Because it violates the principle of modern consciousness, which is the understanding that humans have human rights and that there's something called justice. A consciousness from the Bronze Age doesn't have any idea of these things called human rights. I mean, the reason why Jesus was so revolutionary back in the day was because he said, hey guys, maybe you shouldn't treat your slaves so badly. Not that slavery was wrong. Jesus didn't ever say slavery was wrong. He just said, be nice to your slaves. Don't be so mean to your slaves. Be nice to your slaves. And that was revolutionary. The powers that be killed Jesus because Jesus said to be nice to your slaves. He didn't even say to not have slaves. He just said be nice to them. And they were gonna they murdered him for that. So Bronze Age consciousness isn't something you want to aspire to. You want to aspire to more than Bronze Age consciousness. But a lot of people in the United States have Bronze Age consciousness. They can't understand the concept of justice. They can't understand the concept of human rights. They can't incorporate 3,000 years worth of history. They can't do it. So they're stuck in a mind frame, in a mindset that says might makes right. That says my group is physically stronger than your group, will be physically more violent than your group, therefore we're entitled to this because we're more brutal than you are. That's Bronze Age thinking. Civilized modern thinking does not believe that might makes right. There are universal values and truths. Pink sheep. Look at this pink sheep. Yo, what's up, pink sheep? But that's a struggle, right? It's a struggle to maintain modern consciousness when a lot of people are stuck in the Bronze Age. I mean, Bronze Age, they had slavery. It was a commonplace thing. It was everywhere. Even Jesus wasn't able to condemn slavery. Are we going to say that Jesus is a bad guy? No, I don't think he's a bad guy, but he's a product of his time. And in his time, it was only slavery. That was it. They didn't have modern consciousness. They didn't have 3,000 years of warfare and bloodshed to understand that, yo, this violence thing is a bad idea. So Donald Trump represents Bronze Age consciousness. And that's what he attracts. He attracts other people with Bronze Age consciousness. And what's the Bronze Age? Pretty brutal. They had slavery. Like, if you got caught cheating on your husband, you would get murdered by everyone, throwing rocks at you until you died. Pretty brutal. It's Bronze Age consciousness is not something you want to aspire to. It's a failing. It's a failure of society if you have Bronze Age consciousness. So how do we deal with all these people with Bronze Age consciousness? Because Donald Trump is threatening to overthrow the United States again. How do you deal with that? Well, you can't talk to them. I tried, right? I tried to talk to these people. They are literally indoctrinated, where that they are unable to accept accept any new information. And any information you show to them that's contrary only reinforces their faith in the leader. Because they feel, oh, I'm being tested. God is testing me with this information that contrary to what Donald Trump says. So if you give them more information, all it does is make them dig in deeper to the delusions, to the Bronze Age consciousness. So how do you break them out of it? You take out the leader. You take down the leader. The leader is Donald Trump. And so far, his strategy has been to delay. Because as long as he doesn't go to court, he can pretend he's not a loser. Every time Donald Trump goes to court, he loses. Every time. The only time he doesn't lose is when he has friends, which is in the Supreme Court. That's the only time. When it's rigged, then he'll win. But when it's not rigged, he loses. Because remember, every court until the Supreme Court said that Donald Trump was kicked off the ballot. Only until Donald Trump got to his friends in the Supreme Court. That's already stacked. Like, the Republicans already corrupted the Supreme Court. Only then did he win a court case. Because thoroughly, through and through, Donald Trump's a loser. He lost the popular vote both times in 2016 and in 2020. He only won the Electoral College vote because the Russians got 3 counties to flip for him. Only 3 counties. The majority of Americans didn't want Donald Trump. And they still don't want Donald Trump. So Donald Trump needs to push back the reality that Donald Trump is a loser. And he does that by delaying his court cases as long as possible. For example, I've been talking about how, oh boy, the criminal court case, March 25th. Well, right before the court case happened, the Southern District of New York did a document dump on top of Attorney General Bragg, who's prosecuting the case against Donald Trump in New York. Attorney General Bragg has asked the Southern District of New York to please give us this evidence for years and years and years, but they waited. They waited all this time. They didn't believe him, or they didn't comply. They ignored him for years and years and years. Remember, the Stormy Daniels thing has been going on since 2016. That's how long the Southern District of New York has ignored Attorney General Bragg to deliver this evidence. Only 2 weeks before his trial started, suddenly the Southern District of New York decided to drop 15,000 documents on top of Attorney General Bragg. 2 weeks before the trial was supposed to start. They waited 8 years. And 2 weeks before the trial started, they dropped 15,000 documents on him. So he said, fine. Let's give this 30 days so I can process all these documents that they finally gave to me. Now, wait a minute. That's weird. Why would the Southern District of New York act like this? Why would they help out Donald Trump like this? Well, remember, Donald Trump has a lot of corruption and there's a lot of corruption. It's a lot of corruption. That's all. It's a lot of corruption. How is it that Donald Trump was even able to run for president the first time? Why wasn't he caught from all this fraud and money laundering? Because he has friends in law enforcement. He has lots of friends in law enforcement. A lot of FBI agents, a lot of police officers are on board with dictator Donald Trump. And so I don't have any proof of it, but I think that Donald Trump has friends in the Southern District of New York, which is why he's never been caught before, and why they're helping him out with this delay. Like, it's a long shot, right? This is like the last last attempt at delay. I don't know what else he can do to delay his court case after this. But now we're looking at like March 22nd or something for his first criminal trial. Oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But even before then, next week, Donald Trump has to come up with $500 million for the other trial that he lost. He lost his other court case in New York about his company, his Trump.org. He was doing massive fraud with Trump.org. What he would do was he would inflate the value of his properties to the banks, so he could use those properties as collateral and get bigger loans from the bank. Then he would turn around and those exact same properties, he would say they were worthless to the federal government. So that way he doesn't have to pay property taxes on these things. The fraud worked both ways. So Donald Trump lost because he's a loser. He lost that court case, and he has to pay $500 million now. He doesn't have $500 million. He was already like crying about $91 million, let alone $500 million. So just like when he lost all his money on the Taj Mahal, and he had to ask the Russians for help, I think this is going to be the same situation. Donald Trump is looking for a bailout, and the Russians will help him out. They'll bail him out. The Russians will bail him out. But they don't work for free. They don't do that for free. If the Russians are bailing out, that means you owe them something. So Donald Trump is asking the Russians to bail him out of his $500 million fee. And if Donald Trump takes power in 2024, Donald Trump can pay back Russia by giving them Ukraine and by removing all the sanctions that USA had placed on them. So there's another thing, right? Donald Trump works for Russia. It's not just that Donald Trump is a mobster who's a bad guy. He works for foreign powers against the United States. He's not even loyal to the United States. He's a traitor. And he would sell us out so he doesn't go to prison. In fact, that's the whole reason why he's running for president. Because he knows he cannot win in court. He can't win in court. 99 degrees. Woohoo. He can't win in court. So his only hope to avoid prison is to become president and then command the Department of Justice to drop all the court cases against him. That's his only chance. And then, but wait a minute, what about the state charges against him? Well, that's the thing. That's why he's saying that presidents are immune. That's why he's got an argument before the Supreme Court that says presidents are king and that they're above the law. Now, every other court said, that's bullshit, whatever. But the Supreme Court, because Donald Trump has all his friends there, said, oh, yeah, we'll consider if Donald Trump is king. And while we consider if Donald Trump is king under the Constitution, none of the other federal court cases can go forward. Ta-da! There's his delay. That's exactly what Donald Trump wanted, delay. And he got it. His friends in the Supreme Court got him exactly what he wanted. So, because he was going to lose, he lost every other court case. He cannot win. He can't win. He's a loser. He attracts losers. So, Donald Trump being in dire financial straits is susceptible to blackmail by Russia. Indeed, it's not just the oh shit, damn it, it happens every time. It's not just the Donald Trump. It's not just Donald Trump who is blackmailed. It's the entire Republican Party.
Their portfolios, and they love their money more than they do anything else. And they protect it, and they protect the people that do that. And by doing so, you know, the old honeypot, the Russians do that, and I'm sure members of Congress have been caught up. Why in the world would good conservatives vote for crazy stuff like what we've been seeing out of Congress? It's how it works. You're visiting, you're out of the country or out of town, or you're in a motel or bar in D.C., and some whatever you're into, women or men or whatever, comes up and they're very attractive and they're laughing at your jokes and you're buying them a drink. Next thing you know, you're in the motel room with them naked, and next thing you know, you're about to make a key vote, and what happens? Some well-dressed person comes up and whispers in your ear, "Hey man, there's tapes out on you. Were you in a motel room on whatever with whoever?" And then you're like, "Uh-oh," and said, "You really ought not be voting for this thing." I mean, and what do? It's human nature. And, no man or no woman actually is an island, and they know what to get at. If it's women, drugs, booze, it'll find you in D.C. and in most elected offices. And that's what people of power and influence do. And
so that's what it is, right? In the Republican Party, has been, it's not just Donald Trump. That's what I'm saying. It's not just Donald Trump working with the Russians. There's a lot of Republicans who have been compromised by the Russians and will do whatever the Russians want them to do. I mean, remember, a whole bunch of them flew to Moscow on July 4th in 2018. A whole bunch of them did. On July 4th, Donald Trump sent Mike Pompeo to Afghanistan to surrender to the Taliban on September 11th. This isn't just a coincidence. They're doing it on purpose. They do this on purpose. They know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, all I'm telling you is that the United States is in serious trouble. I wouldn't say serious trouble, but yeah, we need some clarity here. You got to be clear about what's going on. I'm not talking to the maggots. Right, they're beyond reason. You cannot reason with them. Their reason is gone. Their brains have been completely washed. They're brainwashed. So you can't reason with them. You can only defeat them at the ballot. Because that's the thing about the United States. How much of a country? How much are we ruled by rule of law? How much? Really? Are you sure? Because Donald Trump literally tried to overthrow the government, and 4 years later he's still a free man and he's running for president. Are we really a country led by the rule of law? I don't know. Because it sure seems like our institutions are pretty weak if we're led by the rule of law. What happened to that Bolsonaro guy who tried to do the same thing in Brazil? He had his passport taken from him. He's under trial. He can't run for president anymore. Yeah, he's in big trouble. Brazil is showing us how to do it. But the United States has this long history of white supremacy that is still with us today. That's why Donald Trump is still able to do what he does, because of our legacy of white supremacy. There's a lot of white supremacists in the United States and in power. I don't know. Blah blah blah. Alright, so hypothetical plan to activating the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Because that's the problem, right? Donald Trump should not have gotten presidency in 2016. The only way he was able to win the presidency in 2016 was because he and the Russians exploited the Electoral College system of the United States. The Electoral College system of the United States is an archaic system, obsolete system that takes away from democracy and adds another layer of abstraction with the Electoral College votes. So you don't actually vote for president. What you're voting for is an elector who then goes to vote for you for president. and that's how Donald Trump managed to steal the election in 2016. Because remember, he gave the Russians a detailed polling map of the United States, so the Russians knew where to attack during the election, and they found the key spot. 3 counties in 3 different states is what they found. 3 counties in 3 different states, that they flipped those 3 counties in 3 different states, and that was enough to give Donald Trump the victory, even though he lost the popular vote. So it's not a feature. It's a weakness. It's an exploit. The Electoral College is an exploit. Doesn't make us stronger. It makes us weaker. It makes us open. Makes us susceptible to hacking, like what just happened with Donald Trump. So to defeat that, we're never going to be able to pass a constitutional amendment. That's what it would take. It would take a constitutional amendment to get rid of the Electoral College, and there's no way that's going to happen. The Confederates would not let it happen. Never, never. Because the Confederates love the Electoral College. The Electoral College is how they Republicans hate democracy, and the Electoral College stands against democracy. So they want to keep the Electoral College because that limits democracy. Well, so since we can't actually pass what's it called? Shit. An amendment. What's happening instead is individual states are pledging to give their votes, their Electoral College votes, to the winner of the popular vote. And when a majority of states, so you need to have, to declare a winner, in the United States presidential election between 2 candidates, one candidate has to get 270 Electoral College votes. So if an individual states are pledging to give their votes to the winner of the Electoral College, but that's not going to kick in until they reach a critical mass. They're only going to do that once a critical mass of states has agreed to this idea. Once states with a combined total of 270 votes, Electoral College votes, decides to give their votes to the winner of the Electoral College, then all of them, it's like a trigger, all of them will do it at once. At that point, it doesn't matter if the other states don't want to come along, because the majority of states are going to, have already decided to give their vote to the the winner of the popular vote. Did I say that right? The popular vote. The popular vote. So far, these states in orange have already decided to give their votes to the popular vote winner, no matter who wins the Electoral College vote. No one cares what the Electoral College says, only what the popular vote says. These states have already done it. These blue ones, it's possible by 2028. And then these gray ones are unlikely to join. The Confederacy is unlikely to go for a popular vote because the Confederacy is unpopular. So they can't win in In fact, I think the only time they won in the past like 30 years that they won a presidency, they only won one time. One time did they win the presidency with the electoral college, with the popular vote, and that was George W. Bush, second term. Every other time, they won the electoral college but lost the popular vote. So the Confederacy is not popular. So that's why no Confederate states wants to join this in this idea, because they would lose forever. Which is the idea, right? Republicans are the Confederacy. We want them to lose forever. That's the whole idea. So we're going to try to get around the Electoral College. But the way it's going to be is once all these states agree to give their votes. So far, in other words, if all these states that are possible, if they all decide to do it, to say yes, that'll be 290 electoral college votes, and that's enough to trigger it, and then it's going to change the whole dynamic. And no longer will we then award the winner, the presidency, to the winner of the electoral college. Then at 2028, we'll award the presidency to the winner of the popular vote. Yay! Yeah, Republicans are terrible. They're anti-democratic and anti-American. And they get a bunch of people on their side by lying to them. And you can't talk to them because they're indoctrinated. So you can only defeat them at the ballot box. You can't talk to them because they're not reasonable. They're brainwashed. Real quick. Empty Wheel is really good. The vast majority of people watching the Alexander Smirnov story are missing the most corrupt aspects of this. Smirnov's FD 1023, that's a federal form or something, was created via a dedicated side channel set up by Billy Barr so Rudy Giuliani could share dirt from known Russian spies targeting Joe Biden's kid, without Rudy facing criminal penalties for soliciting campaign help from Russian spies himself. So in other words, the key player in the Alexander Smirnov story is Attorney General Bill Barr. Billy Barr set up the system that allows Russian spies to feed information into the American justice system, lies, to feed conspiracies into the American justice system that would, give them cover to do an investigation into Joe Biden. It all came from the Russians, and it was helped by Billy Barr. Because Billy Barr's a bad guy. He was never a good guy. He was never a good guy. He's the one who buried the Mueller report, remember? He buried the report and then wrote a synopsis that was totally wrong. He totally lied about the report. And the media ran with what he said for some fucked up reason. They believed him. And he did the same thing to the Iran-Contra affair report when he was Attorney General for back then. He's a bad guy. Billy Barr is an evil dude. He's evil. He is super bad. He's just as bad as Donald Trump and Roger Stone. I mean, I'm talking all this stuff, but no one listens and no one understands, no one cares. Whatever. Doesn't matter if you understand it. I understand it. And if you wanted to understand it, I could help you. So just keep in mind, Donald Trump is a loser. He's a loser. He loses all his court cases. His only chance is to delay the court case until after the election. He has to hope he can steal power. He can steal the election. Yeah, that's his hope, is that he'd steal the election and then use the power of the presidency to make all the court cases go away. That's his only hope. Otherwise, he's going to prison because he's a loser. He loses all his court cases. He could never prove his voter fraud. He's still talking about it. He still talks about voter fraud, even though he lost 62 court cases. He had plenty of chances to prove his case. He never could prove it. He could never prove it. He can't point to even one court case to support his argument because he's lying. So remember, he's going to try to get people to become violent once he loses the election. He's already like prepping them by calling for a bloodbath. And he's like, oh, plausible deniability. I wasn't talking about the election. Bullshit, dude. You're a fucking mob boss. We know how you operate, fucker. So hang in there, Americans. Unfortunately, the first set of consequences, the first trial, has been delayed a month. That sucks. It's awful. But so that just puts more responsibility upon us as the voter to make sure that we inform our fellow Americans and that we help one another vote, to go vote. Because the other thing about the Confederacy is that they don't want people voting. They don't want you to vote. They only want the certain kind of people to vote, and you're not it. So make sure you help one another to go vote and to encourage one another to vote. Especially you non-voters, dude. I can't believe you non-voters. Like it's go vote, god damn it. Alright, America, until next time, Pogokiro out. Peace. Stop.